what we've got then is a city, the city of Jorvik, which in essence begins in the year 866. So we're here at the Great East End of the Minster, just waiting for the parade to start to come by. So we've got a fantastic vantage point here. So it begins in the year 866. Now, the first foray to these islands by the Scandinavians, by the Viking warriors, is somewhat earlier, 793. Of course, the famous raid on Lindisfarne, on the Abbey, which of course horrified the church because they killed monks, they took the altar pieces, the valuables, the wealth. It was seen as a kind of a consecration of the altar. Look at it. So just if you're hearing in the background now, starting to hear the Vikings coming. So from 866 onwards, they settled here and took advantage of the fact there was a civil war going on in Northumbria. So actually King Aella and Osbert were fighting one another. But by the spring of 867, Osbert and King Aella had kind of come together, put aside their differences temporarily, thank you, Dot, and they decided to try and rid Jorvik, of the Vikings for good. And so the battle in March of 867 was an attempt to outnumber the Vikings. So huge numbers of troops under the king of Northumbria, King Aella, came to drive the Vikings from York. But they met not only fierce resistance, but also the narrow streets of York made it very, very difficult for them to press home the advantage. As you can imagine, in York, if you're in these very, very narrow streets and alleyways, very, very hard firstly to see your enemy, but also to use your number. You can't outflank. In other words, you can't wrap your numbers around them and attack. It simply doesn't work like that. So consequently, the battle failed. King Aella and Osbert, he said, were killed on the day. Now, legend has it that King Aella was subject to the blood eagle. Some of you will know about the blood eagle, fortunately, the Vikings. It is a rather nasty punishment inflicted by the Vikings, whereby people's lungs are pulled out their back from their ribs and inflated and pinned to a board. That is the Viking blood eagle. And whether that happened or not, we don't know. We certainly do know that King Aella and Osbert died in the battle. This left the way clear. And so from that point onwards, York or Jorvik was firmly under the hands of the Danes. There was a peace treaty done with King Alfred, with Guthrum, who was the king of East Anglia, who in effect created what they call the Danelaw. So all of eastern England then came under the Vikings. Again, I think, hi Penny Karen. So we're just waiting for the Vikings. They're assembling around the corner to give us the first glimpse of the march. I think I've got an image here. Here we go. So if you have a look at these graphs, you can see the various holdings across different periods of the 8th, the 9th, 10th century. And what you'll see is that actually amongst the top right-hand corner, Kingdom of Northumbria, was the last part of Britain to hold on to. The last kingdom, as it's known, there's David Uhtred, the novels of Bernard Cornwell. So this was a Viking stronghold, a Danish stronghold, well into the 11th century. It's not really until 1066, the Norman conquest, that York, the Kingdom of Northumbria, becomes part of this idea of a place called England. England doesn't exist at this moment in time. We have a series of kingdoms. And so by the Vikings taking the Kingdom of Northumbria, they hold one of the four mighty kingdoms, East Anglia, Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria. So they are, in effect, a kind of power broker. They hold at least a quarter of England, but in practice, it's more than that because it's the bulk of the East Anglia. So here we are, we've got the front runners coming through. So let us just stand back now and enjoy our first view of the Vikings and their march through Jorvik. Wonderful pendants. Just move back a little again. Hopefully that's giving you a good perspective shot. The warrior cast It's coming into a very noisy lot they are too. Do you know, I don't know how many participants, but I would guess certainly several hundred. Have a count if you like. So we're getting into the march formation. Warrior cast in the middle. No. Wonderful kinetic movement we're getting now as well. Yeah. It's a wonderful annual sight that we have here in York. Every year they come back to claim the city of Jorvik. A wonderful bit of pageantry here in York. Horns blowing, the drums beating, swords up, and of course many of the ladies now surrounded by their protectors can walk safely on the streets. This lady here, she's a wise woman. It's hard to tell, but her staff with a trinket suggests that she's a little doggy Vikings. And the family's coming now. The different shields would indicate different allegiances to different kind of tribal areas and different areas, because of course, whilst the Vikings are united Scandinavians, there are Danes, Norwegians, various sort of countries and countrymen and nobles amongst them. So again, more warriors coming now. Really is a fantastic sight here in York. So it's a bumper year. I think it's bigger than last year in terms of numbers, which is fantastic. Let's hope it just keeps on growing bigger and bigger and bigger. You hear the drums coming. I've yet to see the huge dog. There's a dog that is like a wolf, which hopefully we'll be able to see as we go past. So all those shields, as you can see, the same markings, John, so it suggests they are from the same... Hello, Santosh again. The same kith and kin. Like a bodhran-type drum there being banged. Very loud. And again, some fabulous markings and makeup. Hi. Thanks, Fiona. So I think we are into the followers, the famous camp followers. So I think what we will do is we will try and come round the other side.